Rene Capron, I'm so glad to see you because we have so many questions about the law, and you're a great attorney. And you know that Wildflower Group is all about education, all about empowering women. So, where do we start when a woman comes to Wildflower and says, "What? Where do I go? Do I need an attorney? What should I do? And why do they need legal advice?"
Well, the first thing is every single woman going through this needs to know, don't sign a stack of papers that your husband gives you.
Yeah.
If he comes in and says, let's do this without attorneys, let's do this amicably, here, sign this, don't sign it. You may be signing away your right to financial disclosures, to be able to contest anything. You need to get the information before you sign it. What he presents to you may be great, but it may not be.
Right.
You have to remember, these people are going through a divorce because they don't trust each other. And if they don't trust each other, why trust him with the future of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So that comes into play with your legal rights and also with the assets.
Absolutely.
Rene, you mentioned that you're very familiar with Wildflower and you know that we're all about education to empower women. So how do you go about educating your clients?
Well, I try to give them all the information. The best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and what I think might happen. But I've had a lot of clients that have come to me and have said, this is amazing. This is the first time I ever heard this. My previous attorney never told me any of this. So one of the things that I always recommend with clients is it's your case, it's your life. You need to advocate for yourself to your attorney. And if you feel like your attorney is glazing over, not listening, not taking the time, then tell your attorney, stop. You need to answer my questions. If they're too busy to answer their questions, then maybe that's a red flag that attorney is really not advocating for you.
Right. Well, and you mentioned a red flag. I had 5 different attorneys because it just felt like no one was getting this. So how can you, if someone doesn't have the privilege of working with you, is working with another attorney, what are some of those red flags they need to be watching out for?
Well, one of the biggest things that I see is you walk into the room on the first consultation and they say, I'm going to get you the world. That's not how it works. If they start out your expectations up here, that's a sign. Your attorney needs to be honest with you, and a lot of that is sometimes giving you really hard news. I tell people bad things all the time. There's a lot of things that happen in their lives that lead up to this circumstance, and clients need to know that.
Yeah.
Going forward, you have to be educated. So if your client or your attorney is not educating you about what your options are, then as the client, it's your responsibility to either find somebody who will or educate yourself. I think that it's critical that clients have a good relationship and feel like they can trust their attorney.
Oh, trust is huge.
It is, and if that's flailing and they're not doing it, then there's something wrong.
Right, and know that they can, if they see or feel these red flags, that they can do something about it. Because we also hear women say, "Oh, you mean I can fire my attorney?" They're so intimidated that doesn't really occur to them. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The client is always the one who's in power.
Yeah.
The client is always the one who can fire the attorney.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just not good fits between certain attorneys and certain clients. But going back to another red flag, if they're calling their attorney and they're not getting return phone calls, they're not getting return emails, they're not getting things explained to them, then that's a red flag. Your attorney, it's not your attorney's job to say, oh, I'm going to take care of everything. If the attorney says, I'm going to take care of it, well, what are they taking care of? Do they even know your position? So much of what we need to do as attorneys is listen to our clients and find out what their position is.
Absolutely. Keep it real. And this is all about wildflower empowerment, right?
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if people aren't empowered, then how are they going to move forward? You have to move forward.
Oh, and these are life decisions. And I've read statistics about the amount of post-decree litigation that happens because it didn't come together correctly the first time around. Post-divorce litigation is incredibly expensive, usually not so successful, and it's emotionally just gut-wrenching, correct?
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
2 things about post-decree litigation. First thing is, if there's already orders in place, I'm trying to spray paint off of a brick wall. It's very difficult, so that's why it's usually not successful.
Analogy.
The other issue with it is, what got you in that circumstance in the first place? Was it because you didn't have attorneys and you wanted to just agree to disagree? Well, then you're in a situation where you already have orders, you already have agreements, especially financially, that you cannot go back and change. You have to kind of, what did they say? Make the bed that you lie in.
Oh, right. You've made your bed, now you lie in it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
We're on the topic of education and Wildflower being all about education. What are your suggestions for women educating themselves before they start this process?
Well, that's a really challenging question because there's a lot of websites out there, there's a lot of information out there, and it's not always accurate. I think the best thing is to always go to an attorney. The risk that you run is that we have one of these bad apple attorneys that is really not listening to their client, not giving their advice. So this is what I recommend. If people are going to these websites or they're Googling divorce tips or whatever the case may be, make a list of those things and see if they think that they apply to their circumstances. And then when they go into their attorney, say, well, how does this apply to me? How does that apply to me? And if the attorney's saying it does or doesn't and not really explaining why or why not, well, maybe that's another red flag that we can say, is this attorney really listening to me? Are they really taking my case to heart? Or are they just running through the attorney mill?
When a Wildflower comes to us and says, well, I'm going to speak to my attorney, but I don't even know what I don't know. I don't know what to ask her. What should we be telling them? How do you prepare for that first meeting? Because they're nervous. They're really nervous.
Of course they're nervous. It's like when I go to the doctor and I forget everything that's wrong with me. I know I'm there for a reason, but I don't remember why. It's the same thing. Those people need to make a list of the things that they're concerned about. Maybe they don't know the legal terminology, but they know what they're concerned about going forward. I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. I'm not going to be able to retire. So they make a list of their concerns and then just be honest with their attorney and say, hey, I don't know this. So much of what an attorney should be doing is educating their clients as to the process, the divorce process, what has happened in the marriage and how that impacts the divorce and how those things are going to impact a client moving forward.
So what are the expectations of a woman as far as expecting her legal provider to really advocate for her?
Well, what every single woman needs to know, and client in general, is that they're the ones driving the bus. The attorney is their agent, but at the end of the day, it's their lives. And so if they feel like they're not getting information from their attorney, they need to speak up and advocate for themselves. And whether it be through education, through, I'm sorry, I just don't understand this word. I'm sorry, we're going to an initial status conference. What does that mean? What does mediation mean? That attorney should be educating them. And so if women can say, I don't know what's going on here, then the attorney should not gloss over that. And if they feel like they're getting glossed over, then they need to change legal counsel.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, that's a really, really good point. We have a lot more to talk about. So I think you've done a great job of encouraging women to just, as I say, take a deep breath and understand that they do have some options. But will you come back and talk with us again?
Of course.
Oh, thank you. So stay tuned, everybody, because we have lots more conversation to come with Rene Capron.